John F. Kennedy was born on May 39, 1917, in Brooklyn, Massachusetts, into a Catholic family of Irish origin. He was the second of the nine children, an outstanding member of American society. At the beginning of the century, who moved in the circles of the great bankers and politicians of the time, who educate his children in Iron Catholic discipline and with a high sentence of public function. Kennedy decided to be very passionate for sports, common to the entire Kennedy family, contrasted with his two fragile health and little interesting in studies. In 1938, he was studying in Harvard University. He asked Harvard University to undertake a new trip to Paris, Turkey, Palestine, the Balkans, the Eastern country, and finally Berlin. In 1940, he graduated with from Harvard, and his doctoral thesis with Inland Step was published, in which he explained England's unpreparedness for war. When the war broke out, he participated as a Navy officer. He joined the Democratic Party upon his return to Boston, and in 1946 successfully ran for the House of Representatives. In 1952, the people of the Massachusetts elected him to the Senate. In 1957, he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for collecting biographical forests of political leaders. He took command of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, and in 1960 began organizing his candidate for the presidential election. On January 1961, John Kennedy became such youngest president in United States history. He was 43 years old when he emerged victorious in the elections, becoming the 35th president of the United States, the youngest and the first Catholic in the history of the United States to occupy the White House. Thus began a revolutionary decade worldwide, which had in the United States a focus of cultural, social, and economic influences. Within his initial were Kennedy Swiss, encompassing the establishment of one of his flying policies, the Alliances for Progress. During his few years in office, the people blamed John F. Kennedy for doing some contrary international developments. During his tenure, 1961 to 1963, the construction for the Berlin Wall, the Bay of Pigs, invasion, and the first step that her led the Vietnam that took place at the base of the program was the Cold War and the urgency to confront the advance of communists. On the continent, in October 1962, an aerial reconnaissance confirmed that medium range missiles were being installed in Cuba. So it ruled out blocking the island to prevent the material needed to make the missiles operational for reaching their destination, and also asked the Soviet Union remove uncovered based Kennedy wanted a revolution to combat the Soviet focused revolution, and the sum was considerable, $22 billion for Latin America. This was a relevant chapter in the history of relations between the US and Latin America, which have always been highly questioned. Kennedy himself acknowledged that many mistakes had been made in the past by Mary J. Kalin Lee Bouvier, a young woman as seemingly perfect as he is becoming the so desired and such admitted culprit in the country, and raising the attention that on other occasions in destined for movie stars or even royal families. Politically, Kennedy was seen as a progressive wanting to change things, and invented and reformed to was very aware of social policy and the situation of the middle and upper middle class Americans who had voted for him. His race was meteorological, and he knew how to dazzle his fellow party members, the medial and ordinary people, to such an enter that he was chosen and a presidential candidate in the 1960 elections, and won the Republican Richard Nixon in a very prepared campaign in which using the first televised electoral debate in the history. The Kennedy administration maintained a very calm tone on everything related to the URSS and the contaminate of communism. John Kennedy was assassinated on November 22 while visiting the city of Dallas, Texas. Although much of the country such adored him, he had made many powerful enemies, uh, including the person Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI, who saw him as a threat to their interest to solve a leader who would tolerate the victory of the URSS. In the Cold War, and a king of communist due to its progressive and social measures. His violent death, one of the most controversial and doubtful events, made him martyr for many Americans, and today he is still considered one of the best president the country has ever had, despite how healthy he looks. This is probably the most complex medical history in the entire wheelhouse. During his childhood, he suffered from scarlet fever, measles, and an outbreak of malaria, but is that Kennedy also suffered from autoimmune employment doctrine syndrome, type 2 that caused nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, high blood pressure, headache, and muscle loss, hypoglycemia, migraines, or deficiency in the immune system. He used to take up the to 10 different duties daily for all ailment. Kennedy had spinal problems aggravated by his involvement as commander of a PT boat during World War II. The then Commander Kennedy fell from the boat along with other uh, companions, including his plane in 1943. And during the pain, he carried one of the soldiers who were badly injured and salvaged 10 comrades. For this feat, he received the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. Kennedy decided giving up his enduring presidential salary um, express per year to donate to charitable cause. The same morning of the murder death at just a few minutes after the shoots were fired, the CBS network broadcast the news about the crime of the CBS, NBC, and ABC, suspending their shows for 4 days to do a monograph on the murder, the assassination of John F. Kennedy was the largest uninterrupted event in all of television history, until September 11 with the attack on the Twin Towers. On November 22, 1963, during a pre-elections tour in Dallas, Texas, he received several shots that hit his head and neck that led to his death. After several investigations in September 1964, the investigation blamed Lee Harvey Oswald for murdering of John Kennedy, who has been held hours after the murder, assassinating the President of the United States was not a federal crime in 1963. After Kennedy's death in 1965, the assault or assassination of a president was finally considered a federal crime under capital punishment moment.